Good evening, my friend. This is PDJ Zeller back again with yet another YouTube video. Today we're racing the iRacing Street Stocks from the Langely Speedway. This is a 40-lap event during week 13. And let me tell you what, this one ended up being an absolute doozy. I made top split, and this was one of the highest SOFs I was in all week. That's why I uploaded this video. It had a 2900 SOF, some of the biggest names in week 13 street stock action were in here. And to be honest with you, I had no expectations of winning this race. I just kind of wanted to get up here and see if I could tussle with the best of the best, see what I could do. And here in a moment, we're about to see what I was capable of doing. So here we go, as we go through turns 3 and 4, that iRacing Ford Mustang pace car is going to make that hard left-hand turn to the pits. And on my inside, David Lamb got a nice jump. He took the lead. I was able to slip right into second in front of the 10 car. So now I ride right behind that 2 of David Lamb. And the thing about my setup in these races, my car was very, very loose until about lap 10. And my car just got progressively better as the race goes on. You see here, Lamb gets loose in 3 and 4. I give him a little tap and drive right underneath him, and heading into turn 1, I'm going to take the lead away from Lamb. Now, I knew that Lamb was probably as fast as me, and I knew the 10 car wasn't as fast as me. So intentionally there in turn 1, I actually backed up more than I normally would just to make sure the 2 stayed trapped on the outside, because I wanted to see the 10 on my bumper. Because I knew I could probably beat the 10. I knew the 2 would be another project, though. I was the number 7 car in this race. I believe at this point I had a 3,700 I rating, so I'm sure that tells you about how good the SOF was. Pretty darn tootin' good. As you see now, I'm just trying to turn some laps in and get as much of a lead as I can. I really like the Langely Speedway. It's one of those tracks where you're always fighting the car. I call it good Oxford, because you drive it a lot like you do the Oxford Plains Speedway. It's just a lot more forgiving. You can actually drive on the curb here unlike Oxford. You can actually save the car a little bit unlike Oxford. You can't really race on the high side. That's still not much of a thing here at this small little circle track, much like Oxford. But it is a very aggressive track. As you can see, I'm really sawing the wheel, fighting it back and forth in those corners. I like that. It keeps you on your feet. It keeps you on your toes, making sure that you're not just out there lackadaisically turning in laps. Because whenever you're out there kind of mindlessly just turning laps, that's when things start to go wrong. So as you see here, I got a lead, and if you watch in my rear view mirror, you see the battle for second is starting to really heat up. I believe that is the Parker Retzoff in third place trying to get around the 10 car, and Retzoff is followed closely behind by Trayton Lapsevich. And Trayton Lapsevich is actually the brother of Caden Lapsevich. Caden is the youngest ever NASCAR champion. He won the NASCAR Pinty Series champion last year at the age of 20. And the Pinty Series, if you don't know, that's NASCAR's Canadian series. So a pretty prestigious honor there for Trayton Lapsevich's brother Caden. And Trayton isn't too far off his brother. He's a pretty quick cat himself. So I knew coming into this race when I saw Trayton in the field, he was certainly going to be up there shaking it up for the win with us. And Parker Retzoff, he's one of the premier short track guys in all of iRacing. You see his name in the field, you know that Parker's going to be a contender for the win. So I knew in this race that I certainly had my work cut out for me, but it did feel good to be up front leading laps early on in this one. As you're going to see, though, these cars in my mirror, now that Retzoff is up to second, he's just getting bigger and bigger. It's kind of like the Jaws theme. Dun-up, dun-up, dun. He blinks a little bit. Dun-up, I get loose. And it almost feels inevitable, right? I pride myself. I think I'm a pretty good driver. I can win a lot of races. I can run up front in just about every race I run. I'm not a Retzoff, though, and I'm certainly not a Trayton Lapsevich either. Those two guys definitely have a little bit of an edge on me. I just feel grateful to be able to race up front with these guys in races week in and week out. But the one thing I did have going for me is I had track position, and track position is huge here at Langely. So you see there's just a massive wreck in front of me that I had to go high to miss, and actually taking advantage of that was Retzoff. Retzoff got to my inside there and kind of made an aggressive move. That's why we touched doors. So Retzoff takes the lead as their net connection still struggles. And at this point, I kind of thought Retzoff was just going to pull away from me. I knew that he was a little bit faster. However, my tires really were hitting their sweet spot, and what I noticed from my setup to the really good guys' setup is I was a little bit better than the guys like Retzoff and Lapsevich from about lap 15 to about lap 25-30. The last 10 laps of the race, though, these guys were really having my numbers, so certainly nothing was guaranteed here. I knew, though, that if I could maybe get around Retzoff here, I'd have a chance to pull a little bit of that lead back, and maybe that would be enough. So right here, I'm really just driving my balls off, man. I'm trying to get up to Retzoff. I want to get around him, and I see Lapsevich coming up in the mirror, so not really a whole lot of time to screw around. As Retzoff makes a mistake, I get underneath him there, as now I'm underneath him for the top spot. Me and Retzoff go side by side underneath him. It's Retzoff still on that high side. I didn't want to pinch him up too high, but I was able to keep my nose in here through 1 and 2. This is just such a short groove racetrack, you know. As long as you are underneath the guy, you're always going to take the position. The guy on the high side is never going to take the position back, whether he's on fresh tires, whether he's 5/10 faster than you a lap. The car on the low side of the racetrack is always going to take the position here at Langley, unless it's maybe like the very first start of the race. That might be the one exception to the rule. It's on cold tires where things could happen. So you see now, though, I've retaken the lead, and now up to second is going to be Trayton Leipzovich, and third will be Retzov, and I believe fourth place is David Lamb. So 4 pretty quick cars running right up front, 4 of the best short track races in iRacing, although I should say 3 and then me. I certainly wouldn't say I'm one of the best, but I find myself fortunate enough to race with these guys from time to time, as I think we're probably right about the halfway point in this race. This was just a fun week, you know, week 13. It's a week where iRacing has a race every half hour for the street stocks, which, as I'm sure a lot of you have learned by now, that's my favorite car. So I love getting out there and racing with these guys. And it's really a good opportunity for you to gain iRating. If you have a good setup for these tracks and you put in the time to practice, there's no reason you can't gain a bunch of iRating during week 13. So here we go. I'm starting to get in some lap traffic. And I ran quite a lot of races at Langley today during week 13, and I'll tell you that lap traffic I have watched decide more than one race today. Lap traffic has been the deciding factor in more races than it really should have been today. Fortunately here, though, you see these guys really did a nice job of getting out of the way. Catch right up to the 18 here. He also gets high and up out of the way, so no issue with the lap traffic. Knock on wood, I guess, is fortunately so far so good. Also, I want to point out, too, I don't remember if I said this earlier or not, but this is pre-recorded. This is a race that I already ran, so don't think that I'm just this calm and cool during the race. I promise you that whenever I'm driving this car and racing very hard for the win, there's a lot of F-bombs dropped, and I certainly am not the cool cucumber that I am right now, let's just say. So still up front leading at this point. I'm feeling decent about my chances, but I know how good the 2 guys behind me are. As you see, Retzov's gotten around Leipzovich for second. And I kind of know that I can probably block them for a while, but as we get closer to the end of this thing, neither of these guys are what you would call non-aggressive drivers. Both of these guys are very willing to use the bumpers. You see Leipzovich give Retzov the bumper there. Leipzovich actually did just pick up second on him now, so move Leipzovich up a spot. I knew probably my best chance to win this race was if these 2 guys got racing too hard for second and just let me scoot away. So that was kind of my hope here, as you see in my mirror, that Retzov and Leipzovich racing very, very aggressively as we get down towards the closing laps in this one. Here we go now. It's going to look like Leipzovich is all over my bumper. Leipzovich gives me a little tap there. I'm able to hang on to it. But getting underneath me almost as Leipzovich, I'm able to cut his nose off. He is just all over my bumper right now. I am getting off the corner a little bit better than these guys. That's really the only thing I have going for me. As you see Leipzovich get real sideways there. He got a big tap from Retzov. Leipzovich is able to hang on to it now as he still runs right up my tailpipes. I mean, this is nose to tail, first through fourth, going at it in top split with a 3000 SOF. You cannot ask for much better than this. Here we come up on a car coming out pit road, and this is always so sketchy. This is my least favorite situation when the cars are coming off pit road, because so many times those guys come off pit road just obliviously and really mess up the battle heading into 3 like that guy almost did there. Thankfully, he was respectful and stayed below that yellow line, though, so no harm, no foul. Still leading this thing, though, as I have those 2 guys all up my tailpipes. The only thing I have going for me is that Retzov is absolutely beating the bumper off of Leipzovich right now, as you can see in my mirrors. As it's still Leipzovich in second, though, but Retzov knows it's go time. He is really starting to force the issue there on Trayton Leipzovich. As here we go, a big bump there from Retzov, and now you're going to see Leipzovich get really loose, and he almost spins. He almost spins, but he saves it. They both save it. This is with about 10 laps to go, and it's still going to be Leipzovich in second, but Retzov almost spun him down the backstretch. This gives me a nice, comfy, about 0.5 of a second lead, and you can see in my mirror now, they're still losing time. Those guys are absolutely beating the other crap out of each other right now, and this is just what I needed here. I am loving life right now. Still with 10 laps to go, though, those guys are very, very fast. I knew that if they could just stop beating the crap out of each other, they still had enough time to catch me. So even though I probably have about a 0.5 of a second lead over them, this thing is far from over. As you see just behind me, I mean, they are touching bumpers, beating and banging. Neither of these guys want to lose this race. However, they are so focused on the race for second right now that I think they're almost forgetting that I'm the leader. So I continue to try to hold as much of a lead as I can. At this point, I'm just telling myself, hold that yellow line, focus on hitting your marks, just try to get off the corner the best you can. Your best shot at winning this thing is just by being smooth right now. got to be smooth. You clearly see they're catching me. They have it down to about 3 to 2/10 of a second right now as I get a little loose off the corner, but you see Leipzig gets loose too. He gets a big bump from Retsoff. Retsoff gets underneath him, and Parker Retsoff now up to second. And I just knew that maybe I could block them. That was my best chance, to just block the living heck out of him and hopefully carry on to win, as we are here at the closing stages of this one. It would be a big Week 13 win, one of the biggest SOFs they've had so far, as we're still just wheeling this car, trying to hang on to it for dear life. Have about a pretty steady 0.2 second gap between me and Parker Retsoff right now. Through 1 and 2, though, as we are in the late stages of this race, my car's starting to lose a little speed, and Retsoff and Leipzig, their cars are set up so nice, they are still gaining a little bit of speed. So now we have Retsoff. He was right up my tailpipes here, and I was curious to see how Retsoff would do this. Retsoff gets up to me, and he is going to give me a little bit of a nudge, a little bit of a tap. I hang on to it that time. As we go down into 3 and 4, Retsoff still all over my bumper. And Retsoff just beating and banging me. I mean, I'm just trying to hang on as we go down into turn 1 this time. A huge shove from Retsoff moves me up the racetrack. He got me out of the way. Retsoff takes over the top spot. Nothing I can do there. Leipzig gets underneath me for second. And now at this point, I'm just trying to gather my stuff. I want to get back into contention for this thing. Heavy lap traffic in front of us. This thing I knew was far from over, so I'm just trying to gather back up, hit my marks again as Lamb is running right in my bumper for 4th. I also would like to hang on the Woods position too, as we all make our way through the lap traffic here. And coming through turns 3 and 4, as you can see David Lamb, he is right up my bumper. This time by, white flag in the air. One more lap to go from the Langley Speedway. I'm driving it deep into the corner. As we come off corners number 1 and 2, it's going to be Parker Retsoff with a too big of an advantage to lose. I dive it deep into the corner and make sure Lamb can't give me the bumper. He gives it to me late, but it is far too late as he's going to spin out actually coming to the stripe, and I ended up P3. So Parker Retsoff wins, Leipzig finishes 2nd, and I ended up 3rd. A fun Week 13 street stock event, to say the least. I really did enjoy racing that one. A lot of fun had for sure. As well, let's look back. I want to show that move one more time between me and Retsoff. And I was not mad at Retsoff, I want to point out, too, for that move he made on me, by the way. That move was just end of the race, going for the win. You got to use the bumper to track like this. I mean, it's plain and simple. So as you see here, we're coming through turns 1 and 2. We're coming into turns 1 and 2, excuse me. And Retsoff just drives it right onto my bumper, gets me up the speedway. And that's really all she wrote for me. So I was unfortunately ended up 3rd, but still a good run. Gained a lot of iRacing, still finishing 3rd in an SOF this big. Fun race. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to leave a like. If there's anything else you think I can do to make these videos better, be sure to leave it down in the comments. And until we meet again, this is PDJ's up signing off.